everyone. My name is Yariva Drew, and I will be your host for today's Media Club podcast. Our topic is on standardized testing, but before we get into it, let us introduce ourselves. So let's say our names, grade, school, and our favorite superhero.
I'm Ryan. I'm Ryan Chung. I'm from Troy High School. I'm a senior now, and my favorite superhero is Daredevil.
I'm Jacob Kim. I'm from Roland High School. I'm a sophomore or 10th grader, and my favorite superhero is Spider-Man.
Hi, my name is Eunice. I'm a sophomore at Cypress High School, and my favorite superhero is also Spider-Man, but I also wanted to include my least favorite superhero, which I have to say is Peter Quill, because literally, I mean, this might be a spoiler, but literally right before they got the gauntlet off of Thanos' hand, he had to slap him, so they didn't get it off, and they could have avoided Endgame.
But that's the only future in which they would have won.
But then they would have won. Oh, okay. You know what?
They still would have failed. Okay, all right, never mind.
Hi, my name is Maddie. I go to Oxford Academy and I'm a junior, and my favorite superhero is Batman.
Nice.
Hi, my name is Wu Cheng. I go to Sun Hills High School and I'm a senior, and my favorite superhero is also Batman because I love the second movie of Dark Knight series.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so let's get into the topic of standardized testing. So our first question is, what test have you guys prepared for, or are you currently preparing for?
Well, I've been preparing for SATs, SAT subject tests, and I took the practice test for ACT once, but like that was my only experience in ACT, and like I mostly done SATs, and I took some state tests too for school.
I tried doing ACT, but I was really bad at the science portion, so I just stuck to SAT. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
I'm currently preparing for the PSAT for next month.
I previously took the SAT subject test for Korean, and now I am preparing for... Wait, do AP tests count as standardized testing too?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm preparing for AP Psychology, AP European History, the Math 2C subject test, and then the SAT.
I've taken the SAT 3 times before, and I've taken the ACT once, and finally I'm done with them, so I'm not taking any more of those, but I'm preparing for subject tests and also AP tests.
Wait, are you sticking with your final ACT or SAT grade?
SAT.
Okay, nice.
I have been preparing for the SAT. I've taken it twice, but the curves were not that grateful for me. So, and I'm taking 4 APs this year, and I've took 3 subject tests.
Which ones have you done?
4 APs?
Yeah, which ones are you studying for?
Right now I'm taking AP English Lit, Gov and Econ, Psych, and then what's my last one? Oh, Biology.
Damn, that's a lot.
Okay. So our next question is, do you think standardized testing is a good thing?
In my opinion, I don't think it's a good thing, but I don't think it's a good thing because it just stresses students so much, and like, it costs them many money, and I don't have so much good memories about SATs and stuff, so I don't really like it.
But like, what do you mean by good thing? Because that's such a broad like term. Like, good thing as in measuring our intelligence, or pretty much I feel like the SATs turned into this thing where it's just like a measure of how well you can get into college.
Yeah, or
It
like
hasn't-
take a test.
It's become so like commercialized that you have to pay for this, and then like you have to just study as much as you can and then get a good score. You don't really focus on the actual material just for like the material its sake, but I feel like it's just like a number they define you as to get into college. I don't think it's that good of a thing.
I don't really think the standardized testing is a good thing. Also, I believe so because if you take the standardized testing and if you fail it, doesn't mean like you're like a bad student and then you can't go to college. It's just you can still take other ones to prove yourself.
I mean, for me, I think it could really just go both ways. At least with the standardized tests that you took as like an elementary school student or as like a high school student, like 10th or 11th grade, not talking about the SAT or ACT. I think those are good ways to show or like and keep teachers accountable of what they're teaching. But then when it comes to the SAT and ACT, like I personally think it's racist. I've looked into this topic because I do have a debate topic about it. So like I'm gonna go a little more in depth about what I'm trying to say. But evidence shows that standardized tests are biased towards white middle class citizens, as it says from Teen Vogue, that the item, aka like the questions correctly answered by more blacks than whites, were discarded by the Educational Testing Service, aka ETS, whereas the items that had a higher disparate impact against blacks became part of the actual SAT. Therefore, it's super biased towards white middle class citizens, and it's always been that way since the beginning. So I don't think standardized testing is a good thing, and it's not equal for everybody.
Specifically talking about the SAT and ACT, I kind of agree with Eunice about the whole bias thing, but in my opinion, it's more of the discrimination against non-English speakers and also towards people with special needs, because I think a lot of people who go to testing centers for SAT and ACT, they kind of just learn how to test and how to study for those tests, and they don't really learn general knowledge or things that could help them in college. So I think that people who are non-English speakers or have disabilities or things where they can't effectively like speak the English language, I think it's really biased towards them because they don't have the same opportunities.
Yeah, I also agree with you when you say that like standardized testing is ableist. They're put in a no-win situation where they either have to disclose their disability, aka their test becomes non-standardized, or they take the test with like that quote-unquote standard and they get a bad grade, so they can't do anything with standardized testing.
I think there's good and bad in standardized testing. So first, like the bad thing is like some people, they have to like pay in order to do better on the SAT scores, or like they have to like, you know, have more, I guess, lessons or tutoring to help them achieve the score that they want. But at the same time, I feel like it's a good thing because it kind of measures like the I wouldn't say national average, but you want to still know where you are in the benchmark, and you want to know if you want to, like, you have to, I feel like it helps you self-improve yourself just because you want to, like, I don't know if it's just the Asian in me, but I want to do better than, like, you know, just, like, than average. So I think it helps with, like, self-improving, if that makes sense.
But can't you also say that it gives you like stress? Because if that doesn't work out for you, that little Asian in you is going to be like on your shoulder being like, you can't do better. What the heck is wrong?
Or what do you think that your improvement in the English and math skill, the basic English and math skills, will help you in life than other people? Like, how do you think your competitiveness in doing better in the SAT will actually help you like later in life?
Well, maybe it's like also I feel like the SAT itself, it doesn't just teach you about like, oh, how to like fill in bubbles more correctly, or like how to like answer SAT questions more, but it kind of helps you with like how you even prepare for other tests, like even school tests, or maybe let's say just how to manage your time in a given like, time restraint. So maybe that's one of the benefits.
Right.
I think she also has a point because like some techniques used in SATs, like critical reading skills and like some math questions, like those kind of skills, it also helps you like sometimes when you go to college, and it also even helps you in some AP subjects, and it's also proven statistically like students who got good scores in SATs, they also have good scores in APs and they do good in college. So I think she has a point.
Does anyone want to add? No, we're good. Okay, so now that we talked about if standardized tests are a good thing, do you think it's necessary?
Not really, because like if the college didn't ask me to take the SAT, like, and I would have taken it. No.
But that's the thing. Colleges, all like most colleges, like 4-year universities, require you to have some sort of standardized testing score, right? So it is necessary, on a basic level, but I think it shouldn't be. Okay. Because I just don't think it is a measure of like a student's intellect and like everything, like their potential. But yeah, it is necessary because anyone that needs to get a job nowadays at least needs like a bachelor's degree, and that's just getting into college. You need the SAT or SAT for that. So yeah.
What if the school didn't require it? Would you still deem it as necessary?
Well, no, because even now, like people instead of going to college, they can go to trade school, they can learn a trade, or they can go to community college, which doesn't require ACT scores. I'm just saying for people that want more opportunities to get higher income jobs from the start, that it is really necessary for someone to take it. Yeah.
Got it.
I don't think standardized testing is necessary because personally for me, I don't like taking tests and and also like since colleges really check like they have like a big focus on like what you get on your scores. I feel like they should check more on like for example like your school activities or like outside activities because it's I feel like if you just take it and you fail it, they think like, oh, you're not like they don't think you're like a good student or something like that.
So, like, do you think we should start putting more stress on stuff like extracurricular activities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
What if people don't have access to those things?
Can you evaluate more in that?
So, I mean, like, if we rely on more, like, other things in admissions, let's say, like, you mentioned extracurriculars, and we put more stress on that, doesn't that cause more inequality? Because not many people,
Not
let me
many school
reiterate that. Yeah,
districts have the
not-
funding to provide all those extracurricular activities
Yeah, not
for
only that, but
students.
not all people have the money to, like, I don't know, go play a sport, because all of these things take money, so.
And like there are a lot of students that work after school to provide for their families. So yeah, it doesn't leave them a lot of time for extracurriculars. And if colleges would look for just for that, then it would be a great disadvantage to a lot of students.
But if that's the argument, then it's the same for standardizing tests because it also consumes a lot of time and it also costs a lot of money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think one important thing about like standardized testing is that it's actually available to everybody. Like I'm talking about the SAT, ACT,
Yeah.
and like tests that you take as an elementary school student, middle school student, high school student. Those are things that we all have an opportunity to access, no matter where you live. Of course, that's like the prep and like all the other stuff is different, but I think that's like one way that we can all access it. So like to answer the question, like although it's bad and it's not necessarily the best way to quantify a student, I do think it's necessary because how else would we like look at a student and determine if they're right for this college and for this like next step in
Right.
their education? And like I think we briefly touched about this a little while ago, but like 5 seconds ago, but if we don't use standardized testing, we'll rely on other metrics such as like extracurriculars, your GPA, and all of these other bad things that can be more subjective. So I think like although it's bad, standardized testing is necessary, and like unless we can find some other alternative.
I agree. I think it is necessary, but I also don't think it's very fair. I think we made that argument about how extracurriculars, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do those things or the money or something like that, but we could make the same argument for standardized tests, especially the ones that you submit to colleges, because even though they are technically available to everyone, not everyone has the opportunity to have tutoring or to buy extra practice books or just practice outside of what the school already gives them. So I guess it is unfair in that sense. But if we do say that that's unfair and that like judging just based on extracurriculars is also unfair, then I think we can just say that the whole college acceptance system is pretty unfair in general. So yeah.
Are you
I
okay?
Yeah, sorry, I just choked on some water.
Oh, cool.
So, I think that standardized testing, it's not necessary, but it'll be helpful to for college admissions officers. Personally, I feel like it's kind of unnecessary because like the like how we view it as fair or unfair, like that really ties into our like perspectives, and not only that, like not to expose anyone or like well, kind of to expose people. Like I know a lot of people who are like homeschooled and like they literally get like the highest classes they could get done within like the minimum amount of time and minimum commitment just because they like find online resources or like they cheat or like they use someone else. So I feel like that's kind of yeah, I think it's necessary because some people they do have like really high GPAs, but they're only able to maintain that because they're using some other resources. So I feel like the standardized testing would help lessen that, or try to make them actually like go through the hard process of actually what we're going through.
Yeah, I think it provides like a more holistic look at an application. Because if we just look at a standardized test, that doesn't really tell you anything except a one test score.
Going on to the next question, do you think it really measures intelligence?
For me, I feel like it's yes and no, because it is true that smart people get good scores in these tests, and but also it's also in some case it's a no, because you might not be that smart in getting good scores in this kind of test, but then you may be smart in like doing other things, in doing other activities, and that's proven by like some presidents, like they had like really low SAT scores, but they became a president. And like I also know some people who got like master's degrees and bachelor's degrees, even though they got really low scores in these tests. So I think it depends.
I think, yeah, it really just tests your book smarts, really. Anyone could get a good score on the SAT, but really once you ask a person how they became successful, they never say, I got a 1550 on the SAT. No, they don't say. It's really a measure of how hard they worked, how much they persevered, how much they tried to get more opportunities. So I don't think it measures intelligence to the level where we can all like compare and actually, like, we can't really just define a person by their SAT score intelligence.
I think that standardized testing do not measure intelligence, because what Wu Chang's statement earlier about how like
Can you speak close to the mic?
even if you get a bad score, it doesn't mean like it's the end of the world, because it's just one test. And plus, if you fail, doesn't mean like it's the end of the world.
I mean, I also agree with Wuchang in the sense that it can go both ways. Like, one, you need to have a certain amount of knowledge to actually be able to answer some of the questions. Like, I know for me, like when I took the test as a freshman, I was like, what the heck is this? On the math section, I had no idea what, I don't know. I didn't know half the questions. So, like, I guess you can say it measures, like, your knowledge of the subject, but at the same time, as I've taken the SAT more and more, I notice a pattern with it, and it really just becomes, like, after you know the knowledge, you're just training yourself to answer these questions, and there's a pattern.
Yeah, I definitely see that. It's really more of just, like, determining, because if I go to, like, a SAT boot camp or something, they really don't tell me to, like, make sure you understand these passages, like understand the knowledge. They're just like, oh, I need you to check off these these two answers first, and then there's like a distraction answer, and there's like this real answer. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so nothing about the knowledge, just like look for a pattern, just try and like hack it or something. It's not really teaching me, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I know it's pretty cliche, but the saying that scores don't define you and that you are so much more than your scores, I think it's really true though. Honestly, as Ryan said, when you talk to someone who's really successful, they'll never be like, oh, I got a 1550 on my SAT and that's why I'm successful. I don't think that intelligence can be measured by something as small as a test score, because there's so much to a person more than just how well you take tests and how well you do on them, because I know that's the case for a lot of people who are really smart but they just don't have good test taking abilities. Like in my experience of taking SATs, I know that I ended up super scoring because every single time I took the SAT, I always got just a little bit lower than my goal score. So, and I don't think that means that I'm dumb or that I'm just like not a smart person overall. I just think that it's just not what I'm good at, and that's the case for a lot of people as well. So I don't think that the standardized tests measure intelligence very well.
I think it measures intelligence up to a certain point. Like, okay, first of all, like, let's just say, like, not that it's gonna happen, but let's just say someone doesn't know how to do like 5 times 5, like it's 25. But like people are gonna be like, what if you just don't know the answer? That's kind of like the intelligence factor. So I think, yeah, definitely it measures up to some, like, a certain extent of your intelligence, but I also don't think it's necessarily like all of your intelligence, just because who knows, someone might have a bad day, and maybe you're just like really tired, or you didn't sleep the day before, or maybe like you just bubbled in wrong,
Right.
or maybe someone like distracted you and you just ran out of time, or there's so many factors that could really affect your test score. So I say half and half on this.
Or like, does anyone remember like a few months ago when like there was some sort of thing with the score where like there was like a scandal in China?
Yeah,
And then like
that was last
and
year.
that affected everyone else's scores just because something happened like in another country, but that like negatively affected everyone else. Yeah.
Wait, can you explain what that is? Because I have no idea what you're talking
I guess
about.
the SAT that was used on that certain month was like a practice SAT used somewhere in China.
Yeah.
So some
Oh.
students had like a total advantage and they knew what questions were coming, and then a majority of students taking that SAT had no idea. So like
Yeah, so
College Board
the
graded
students
it
in China,
differently.
they did really well, but then the others, they were complaining and they were filing complaints to College Board, but the College Board didn't resolve that, just because, the Chinese students, they had to pay for their airplane
Right.
expenses and
I
all
remember that
so.
test because I took that test
Oh, you
when
took
that
that one?
happened,
Oh.
and like
Ooh, you have
um,
insight.
and like because of that there were so many super scores, so the curve was really low. I remember like if you missed 2 in writing it was like 350. If you missed like 1 in math it was like 770 or 78 or something. Like, so like this curve was really low, and like I was the one taking tests, so I remember that test.
I also took that test. It sucks.
How does
Curves
that
on
even
SATs suck.
Like, how did they get access to the same test that
I don't know.
they would?
It's
What?
it's China.
Um,
I don't know. I'm joking.
Overall, I think that we kind of have a negative view towards standardized testing. That's safe to say, right?
I have to
Yeah.
have one question. If we weren't to like view these sorts of standardized testing as a measure to get into college, like what alternative would you guys think of utilizing?
As of now, I don't think there's a good alternative. In fact, like we've said that standardized testing isn't good alone. We've said that GPA and transcripts and extracurriculars aren't good alone. So like
Yeah.
in order to have the most holistic view at a student and what they did throughout high school, I think you just have to like put them together and see what the student did. Like, I mean, that's what we do now.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course it's unequal, but then like I don't know. I can't think of any alternative.
What's one factor you'd like what's one of the biggest factors you'd like to change about current standardized testing that would greatly increase like equality and like
Well, like I think
greater
Maddie
measure?
brought this up earlier, but standardized testing is ableist, and it doesn't help those with disabled bodies.
Right.
So like I think by getting rid of standardized testing, it'll help
Mhm.
people in that sense. But I mean, of course, there's a lot of other things, but I think that's one of the bigger benefits.
Does anyone else have any final thoughts?
I think that standardized testing is fine the way it is right now, because there's no alternative that we could fix it.
Right.
So, that's the end for today's podcast. Our next podcast topic will be on the death penalty, so make sure you're on that.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
Bye.
listening.